Good evening, everybody. It's Heather Beebe with the Unstoppable You podcast right here on Disruption Network for another episode to educate you some awesome stuff going on in the Utica area. Before we get started, I want to thank you so much for those of you that tuned in to watch the Unstoppable You Stories Behind the Music on Saturday night. We raised a ton of awareness in regards to the Thea Bowman House, if anything, and I'm so proud of that. Over 5,000 people watched that live, and it was, to me, just a really special, successful moment. It was just a dumb idea. It wasn't really supported when I first had it. And then asking all the musicians that got involved, they were super excited to do it, and it turned out to be a blast. So thank you for those that watched. Thank you for those that donated. Thank you for those that wrote in to share stories that meant something to you. So I really appreciate that. Something else, this episode is sponsored by EJA Moving Service. About them. If you have an elderly person moving or college students coming up moving, they are a nationwide service. They move, and they're the type of company that provide the boxes for you if you need anything, if you use their services. So use them. They're great. You can find more information at ejamoving.com. And excuse me, ejamoving.com. I didn't say that? Sorry. Okay. So, great. Anyway, moving on. So this is season 2, episode 11. We have Andria Heath here from the Utica Zoo. She is the executive director. And if you've been following the Utica Zoo over the last couple of years, several years now at this point, I remember when you first were coming in, you've done so many amazing things. So I'm super excited to have you here to talk about that, but kind of go even deeper of what's going on at the zoo. And talk about it, because we don't get that back behind the scenes chance. So thank you for doing this.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love talking about the zoo. I miss the zoo. I hope others miss the zoo as well. I've actually been running the zoo from my home. I haven't been there since March 15th. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but the essential staff really are the zookeepers who take care of the animals on a daily basis. They're there. And actually our maintenance team as well, making sure that the zoo is, running top notch. Everything's clean and sanitized. And, during the chaos of everything, what happens? The boiler goes down, and it means that our primates, need heat. So that has to be fixed, etc. So those are the real key people that are taking care of the zoo every day. And then there's a team of us, about 8, that are working remote. And one thing that I was telling somebody today that they thought was really cool, sometimes I forget what's really cool because I'm, in the thick of it, is the staff that work with the animals. They are so specialized. Sometimes I'll put a posting for a job on Facebook and I'll get some feedback. What do you mean that to be a zookeeper, you have to have a college degree? Well, yeah, you have to have a college degree and several internships, and in some cases, a master's degree, because they're taking care of the very life and livelihood and welfare of live animals, sometimes exotic animals. And so because the training is so specialized, we actually formed 2 teams to go through this episode, this episodic response that we have to the pandemic. And just in case we had some staff get exposed to the virus, we have a whole second set, 2 keepers, and then all of us that don't work with the animals, but we could do the backup of literally cleaning the yards, etc., so that we have 2 specialized teams just in case. And those are the kinds of things that we've had to think about during this, that just could keep us up at night if we weren't prepared.
Yeah, that's really smart. I know I did a podcast with a nurse, and that was one of the things that she mentioned, is that when you furlough staff, sometimes it keeps almost like a stash of people that are healthy, that haven't been exposed, that are ready to go as soon as you need them. So it's a good point. And because if they are animals, they require care, and you can't just stop if somebody was sick.
Right. And we can't just get a couple of people off the, a resume to say, oh yeah, come on in, we'll give you 2 days worth of training, and then they're totally taking care of the animals. So the 2 people that are actually on standby, they're working remotely from home on some of those long-term projects that you just really never get a chance to do. And in this case, it's to strengthen our animal care department. So they're in touch every day. They know everything that's going on. They're well aware of what's going on with the animals, but at a moment's notice, if they have to go back into the zoo and pick things up and share their expertise as leaders, we're ready.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a comfort to know that we're that prepared to take care of the animals.
For sure, for sure. So it's funny because when I originally asked you to do this, it's because we love the zoo and we support the zoo. And I, of course, love to get inside the people behind the scenes, you know, and what the zoo does. Since you've agreed, we've had all of this happening. You know, Tiger King came out. There's a lot of things that have either happened that doesn't really involve the zoo other than the shutdown. And then I think the attention on zoos in general has come some negative light, some positive light, and in general. So I feel like there's so many things we can talk about to educate people, and feel free to like navigate away from things you'd rather not discuss, because that's fine too. Because I love the Utica Zoo. We are big supporters. Oh, and as I shared with you the other day when we were up walking behind to go up to the eagle with my family, we could hear, his name's Donovan, right?
Well, we have Donovan and Murphy. They're the two males. And then Cody is the female.
Okay. Well, one of them was like loud, and we stood there and just listened. And it was just the really most cool thing for my family to know that that was him doing that. And we couldn't see him, but we could hear him.
Yeah. Well, you know, they're outside every day in their big, really large exhibit. We're really proud that it's so large. And then, you know, at night they go into this inside building. But even in the inside building, one of the things I was thinking about is every night when we leave, when we're at the zoo, around 5 o'clock when we're leaving, the lions are inside and they're actually getting their carnivore meat, you know, that they absolutely literally drool over. So they are completely roaring in their building, and you can hear them. It almost like reverberates off the wall. So you can really hear the roars outside in the whole zoo. But then the Mexican wolves are up on the North Trek Trail, and they're howling because it's kind of like, especially in the winter when it's starting to get dusk around 5. So you've got at night when it's just the staff there, you know, the wolves are howling, the lions are roaring, the sea lions are usually doing that squawk noise that they do. It's just really kind of funny, the noises, you know. But I love that the zoo has like all the senses, you know, and smell in not a bad way even, because we're such a botanical garden. We actually have, you know, so much green space. So you can see it, you can hear it, you can touch it. And, you know, and then there's the great food at Polly's from Patrick O'Connor. He's so excited to get back up to the zoo and, you know, open our concession stand and just be able to, you know, see all the people. But when we do reopen, we know that it's going to be it's going to be a lighter attendance. That's part of our reopening plan, actually, is to have, you know, a lesser capacity. So it's going to be a lot of creativity to get our zoo open again.
What phase would you consider that you're in?
Well, we know that we're in phase 4, according to the governor. I believe it's an insurance term, but we're actually coined as a attractive nuisance or nuisance attraction, which in essence means that it could create a liability, but people like to do it. So it's the same thing as some sporting events, etc. So I think the biggest thing is the crowds that they fear, and also that people could travel from out of the area to come to the zoo. So we're working on a very specific, detailed reopening plan that really highlights the fact that we have so many, you know, such vast open area. And, you know, for years, you mentioned I've been there for a while. I've been there since 2011. And one of the things that I've thought of as a liability is that we don't have a lot of inside buildings. So when the weather is, you know, rainy or extra hot and people are seeking air conditioning, or extra cold and they want heat, we don't have a lot of buildings. We're very much outside zoo. But actually this year, it's a wonderful asset that we're such an outside zoo, because when people do come to see us, we don't have to shut buildings down like some of the really large invested in zoos do.
Sure.
Yeah.
So do you think, would it be possible, because you have such a large area outside, to have a waiver or anything to kind of come open earlier at a maybe maximum capacity at a certain amount? Or
we're hoping for that. We, again, by next Monday, we'll actually have our plan approved by our board, and then we'll submit it to the county and the state and the governor's task force. But, you know, we'll be able to incorporate social distancing. We actually, my sister made me these. I thought I'd do a little show and tell. We actually have masks, these UV masks, you know, but we'll have, you know, we'll have things where they're taped out. We'll have, you know, different ways that people can enter the zoo. I think we'll have 25 to 50% capacity of what can fit in the zoo. We're 80 acres, about 35 developed, so we have a lot of room. And maybe we'll have to talk about doing some license checks and only letting initially people from our own communities or maybe contiguous counties come in to avoid that whole episode that could happen of someone sitting around downstate saying, "We got to get the kids out of this house and go do something fun. The Utica Zoo
is open.
Yeah, let's just pop up to the Utica Zoo and do the zoo for the day and then come on home." That's, I think, what the governor wants to avoid. So maybe we have to do something like that.
Yeah, that would make sense. That would make sense. Yeah.
One of the things that people don't know, though, is there are a lot of ways to see the zoo right now, even though we are closed. Even before this all happened, we haven't really probably promoted this as much as we could, but we won this really cool thing called Earth Cam a couple of years ago. And it's a webcam, and it's actually in our Cotton Top Tamarin exhibit. There are little primates. They're only literally like this big. And there were a mother, father, and their 2 twin boys. Sadly, the father just passed away in January, but he was like 16 years old. But they were a family of 4. Now they're 3, and they bebop all over that exhibit. They're arboreal. They're up in the air a lot, and so the camera is set on them 24/7. So actually, right on our website, people can watch them all the time. And the first week we were open, maybe even the first 24 hours, we had 100,000 hits. And we actually just won a contest, like an international prize, that we were one of the most viewed on EarthCam. And it's not even just all zoos; it's different, like skiing and different science museums, etc. So it's kind of a unique thing, and people can see it. But we've been doing a lot of virtual programs so that people can still see a lot of the zoo online, like others.
Yeah, nice. So one of the things that I can remember about the zoo as well, that was a learning thing for me, after being there many times, we go look at the animals, and they're really beautiful, and we're animal people, but really some of the things that you're doing are necessary for the health of the animal that's there. So I think it was the eagle had an injury, and he's basically there because he wouldn't survive in the wild. And I don't think I ever realized that for a long time. And then one day I was like, I actually read it, and it was, I don't know. I think going to the zoo as an adult is a very different experience than going to the zoo as a child, unless you have an adult like walk you through everything and read everything. So talk about that a little bit more, how an animal in that situation would end up at the zoo, and how important it is for a place like yours for that animal.
Yeah, so a lot of our animals actually are there because they have been rescued by rehabbers. And in that case, I'm talking about animals that are indigenous to, the United States. So for instance, we have 3 eagles, 3 American bald eagles, and they are all there because they were rehabbed and otherwise would not have survived in the wild. So we're actually their respite. They're, that's where they are. And they're ambassadors for their wild parts that are in the wild. They can help tell the story. One of our eagles was hit by a plane. One ran into a transformer. And then we have a third one. His name is Spirit. And people don't often see him because he actually has a neurological disorder. And he was living with a wildlife rehabber, and he outlived his rehabber. The rehabber passed away. So we're seeking a place for him to live. So he came to live at the zoo. And he's really kind of like living out his days. But he's afraid. So because of his neurological disorder, he actually kind of stays close to the ground near the holding area, and that calms him down. So it's kind of like his hospice. He's just there, and he gets great care, but that's why he's there. But we also have an example of like an exotic animal that is at the zoo, again, because of not knowing how or being able to live in the wild. And it's our 2 spider monkeys, our Mexican spider monkeys. And I tell this story because this is still happening today. It's actually criminal behavior that is still happening today. What happens, Manuel and Negra, our 2 spider monkeys, they were actually rescued from Mexico over the Mexican border into the Gladys Porter Zoo down in Brownsville, Texas, because these criminal wildlife poachers either shake a tree that a mother is holding her infant, or they shoot the mother, and the infant falls to the ground, and they steal them to sell in the illegal pet trade as monkeys for people to have in their homes, or in illicit animal presentations that aren't really for the best welfare of the animal. And so our 2 Mexican spider monkeys are at our zoo because as orphans, they never would have known how to live in the jungle, in the rainforest by themselves. And so again, they are ambassadors telling their story for the animals still living in the wild. And it's a crime that still happens.
Yeah. Yeah, the most obvious example in the movie Rio, when they capture the birds and they resell them, that's something that happens a lot.
Yeah, but we have a lot of animals at the zoo right now that really are that story, like our fox. And we have Grace, who's a barred owl. She's part of our education program, and she actually doesn't have one of her wings. But when she was in rehab before she came to the zoo, there was actually another orphaned barred owl that came in, and she fostered it and taught it how to be an owl and how to fly. And they were able to release that barred owl, that baby, back into the wild because of Grace showing her. And then Grace came to live with us. So we have, a lot of animals that have been rescued, on the side of the road, et cetera, and then rehabbed, deemed not releasable. So so we have them.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. So, obviously the Tiger King was like a big deal. I don't even, I watched it and it was like addicting to watch because it was so much drama.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah, if you sit after and you're like, wow, like this is really like a horrible story about the animals. All this drama with the adults, I think, is the interesting part, but the sadness of the animals. They also talk a lot about how the tiger cubs are used to, make profit and show and do the animal presentations and things like that. So has the Utica Zoo experienced any negative feedback because we have lions or anything like that? Have you noticed anything in response to that airing?
So I think that Tiger King came out, did it come out like just as we were all going into quarantine ourselves?
Yeah, right. It was like right around the same time.
Yeah. So one of the things that I'm really grateful for is that we did get accredited with the Association of Zoos and Aquariums in 2018. And I have this amazing network, believe it or not, of the 3,000 animal entities that are in the whole nation. Wild animal parks and zoos and different places that you can see animals. Only about 240 are accredited, of all of those. But I have those other directors to reach out to and really, share information and get information from. And so when Tiger King first was released, the Association of Zoos and Aquariums led some conversations about it. And I don't know that we locally have gotten any more feedback negative about the zoo because of Tiger King than we would have anyways. There is a small faction, of our community that doesn't appreciate the zoo or doesn't understand our purpose. And our purpose is to educate about a lot of these things that do affect the welfare of animals. And our purpose also is to highlight the importance of species and that we want to do everything possible so that they don't become extinct. And we have responsible breeding partnerships that we do. We never have zoo babies at the Utica Zoo just to have babies, even though they're cute. We only breed if we have a recommendation to breed because there's an animal that's starting to become at kind of vulnerable levels of that animal in the wild or in zoos to keep the population of genetics clean. So I don't know that Tiger King actually created a lot of backlash for us. I haven't seen it. I know that it's a lot of people drama, and so I haven't watched it yet. But I'm sad that some of the things that are portrayed, from what I understand about the show, of the way that the animals can be treated and traded and sold and manipulated and exploited, that's real life, and I'm very sad about that. But I'm also very proud that the Utica Zoo does everything we can to educate against that.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk about the accreditation exactly? Because I know certain accreditations really, they hold the bar really high and they say, if you don't do this, this, or this, or this, you don't qualify. So talk a little bit about what the Utica Zoo had to do to raise the bar to qualify for this accreditation.
You described, it is a really high bar, and the zoo used to be accredited back in the 2004-2005 timeframe. And I joined the zoo in 2011, so it had been not accredited for a number of years. And my first 3 months on the job, I had the opportunity to go to the national conference that EJA does in Atlanta. And, I was not only new to the job, but new to the whole industry. So there were about 2,500 people at this icebreaker at the aquarium in Atlanta. And I was just kind of walking around in groups of people saying, hi, I'm new to the job, new to the industry, I'm talking to strangers. And people were so friendly and so open. But what I really learned is that I saw a vision that the Utica Zoo could really fare better for our community if we were accredited. because it had been, and our community knew what it meant to be to have the zoo accredited. The reason why it lost its accreditation back in like the 2005 timeframe is a few reasons, and it didn't really have anything to do with the care of the animals. It had to do with the fact that the zoo wasn't raising enough money to take care of things like deferred maintenance. So when the inspection team came and saw, a lot of rust or broken fence posts or, things that looked unattended, that obviously puts a red flag in the mind to say, if you're not taking care of that, and we're seeing it so blatantly, things need to be painted, you have cracked, windows or whatever, what else aren't you taking care of? So deferred maintenance was a real issue. And boy, by the time I came along in 2011, I'd really inherited a lot of deferred maintenance. So it cost us about $450,000 to just go around the zoo and to just kind of like take care of things that needed to be taken care of. That was going to make it more pleasant for the visitors, easier for the staff to take care of the zoo. So they weren't necessarily things that would harm the animals, but would be things that would make us not as efficient to take care of things, which then takes time away from and resources away from the animals. So we took care of all of that. It was a lot of work, a lot of 14, 16-hour days, and during the summer of 2017 and 2018. And then we were able to get accredited. We did have a couple of items when we went to the hearing in 2018 that had to be taken care of still. And then we had a year to do that. We went back in 2019 to another hearing, and we're fully accredited without even those things on the checklist. We were able to, if they weren't finished, we have a good plan to finish them, and that was sufficient.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, as a visitor, we definitely could tell the quality of the grounds, I think, went up as you came in. I think that you should be really proud of that because it was very obvious.
Okay, we have a great team too. Everybody really cares. And one of the cool things for our members, now that we are accredited, is when everybody else opens up again, and many zoos and aquariums are in the process of reopening, our membership has this reciprocal that really gives people either a 50% or a full 100% discount when they go to visit a lot of other zoos and aquariums and a lot of the big well-known ones. So that's a real benefit to buy our membership and be able to use it elsewhere.
Nice. So wait, so explain that again. So if you're a member of the Utica Zoo, because of the accreditation, any other zoo accredited with that same accreditation, you can get a discount to go in.
Most of them, like San Diego, the Bronx, the Disneys, I think, they don't necessarily have that kind. There might be some discounts like in the gift shop, et cetera, but some of them don't reciprocate the membership, but most do. Many of them you can go and get full, 100% free into the zoo.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Explain a little bit right now what the membership looks like. What does it entail? How much does it cost? Just to kind of educate anyone who may be listening.
So all of the prices are on our website. I don't have them all memorized. I think that the regular family membership is $79, and then what we call an extended family membership is, I believe, $99. And it means that you can have a number of adults and children anytime. They get to go into the zoo, 100% free. Some of our events like Wine in the Wilderness and Brewfest, there's pre-advance discounts on the tickets. There's discounts if you have a birthday party or a Zoomobile, discounts in the gift shop, the reciprocal. We currently have a member-only page on our website where we're putting exclusive information or preview first information. With our reopen plan, I think we're going to do a soft opening for our members first because our members are so good to us and they consider themselves part of our family. We often tell members things before we tell other people, like about new animals that might be coming or babies that we've had. We have a members only night in the summer with music and food. And so we honor our members that way, one night a year to just do something special for them. So it's, I think people consider it a great benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have all these questions.
Ask.
The snowshoeing in the winter. This is something I know about, but I have snowshoes, so I just go to wherever. Talk about that program because I feel like that's a program not enough people know about or take advantage of.
Yeah. So
we're coming into summer, but right.
Well, I don't know. We had snow this past weekend, so I think your question's pretty good. So just a moment of history about why we're doing the snowshoe. And when I first took the job, the zoo had actually had this business plan where they were open in the winter, but it was free. This is before I got there. And so my first year there, I thought, this is kind of crazy to be open but free. Because first of all, I've learned over the years that when something's totally free, a lot of times it's devalued and people won't do it because they think it's not going to be worth anything because it's free. So I think even a marginal lower discounted price, which we do in the winter, right? We have a discounted price. So we started to be open in the winter with a small fee. And what we could do with that fee was we could staff the gift shop so that when people showed up at the zoo in the winter, there was somebody to greet them. They could get a hot cocoa or a coffee. They could buy a gift or, a souvenir. And I really hope that people think of the Utica Zoo gift shop for all these birthday parties that kids always get invited to. But also I felt like it was a safety thing that if someone's wandering around the zoo in the winter, it's nice to have somebody where they know is working at the gift shop that if they saw an animal that they had a question about, or if there was any kind of a first aid need, etc., the gift shop was that go-to place. So I felt it was important. And because we were going to be open that first winter, I had to look at all kinds of ways to bring in revenue. So we talked about the snowshoe program, and then we got a grant from Excellus. And we're actually on our second grant from Excellus because it's been so successful that we actually had to replace some of the snowshoes. And so we have snowshoes for toddler age all the way up to adults. They're nice ones. They're quality. The only reason we had to replace them is they were really so well used. So we really encourage people to bring their own snowshoes, and then they just have to pay the zoo discount admission, or they can rent the snowshoes from us. I think it's like $2.50 or maybe a little bit more. They give their license over, they take the snowshoes, and then they trade it back.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, we've tried to be creative and just, it's such a unique zoo. There's gardens and the view is just gorgeous. And, so there's a lot to do there. And once we can reopen in the real sense of the word, we have a lot of things that we had planned for 2020 that we're going to be adding. We have this Africa Adventure Ridge that we're going to be doing up past the zebra and ostrich. It's going to be amazing. We had a donor fund it. It's this huge bounce pillow, not a bounce house, huge bounce pillow. We're actually going to be putting a pavilion and have a whole visitor area up there. So parents will be able to sit and relax and look at the beautiful view over the city. The kids can enjoy the bounce pillow. And it'll just be one more way that people can spend some time just making memories.
Nice. Is that where the retaining wall is that's been installed that kind of bumps up to the parkway?
Yeah, so that retaining wall actually is for a new building that's not the zoo's. We're actually going to have a neighbor. It's the New York Power Authority, and they are actually putting in this, they've invested a lot of resources into what's going to be called the New York Energy Zone. It's going to be free admission, and it's going to be a museum type walkthrough about all kinds of power, primarily water, because they are the ones who run the Hinkley Dam and dams throughout, a power authority throughout the state. But that's going to be an enterprise of New York Power Authority, but it'll be right there at the zoo. So we're hoping that it actually, over time, increases our attendance, especially in the winter when people can do the inside Power Authority Museum and then do the zoo. So that big retaining wall is not ours.
Okay. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought it was something else, but I didn't know it was the Power Authority. That's nice. That'll bring other traffic up there to kind of.
That was the intention before COVID-19.
Yeah, everything was before COVID-19.
Yeah.
That will be forever, like, previous to 9/11 or something like that. Very different situation, but also very traumatic for a lot of people with the changes.
Very much, and I mean downright, life-changing. We are doing something very, very unique because of being closed right now. And even if we could reopen, we know that we have to have smaller crowds. Our wine I thought back before we knew this would last as long as it is, that by the time we got to Wine in the Wilderness on June 6th, people would just be dying to come to Wine in the Wilderness and have, this outdoor festival with the bands, beautiful view, foods, and the wineries. It's our second biggest event fundraiser of the year. And we know now, even if we're open, that we can't have 1,500 to 2,000 of our closest friends come to the zoo on Saturday, June 6th. So instead of having Wine in the Wilderness this year, we're going to have Wine in the Virtual. And what we have is we're going to have Wine in the Wilderness boxes that will have a Wine in the Wilderness glass, and then also another glass, either a shot glass or a bourbon glass that we have. We're getting the wine gummies that people have loved over the last 2 years. We found out that they're considered candy, so we actually can ship them. We actually have these really cool, you're gonna laugh, but we have these really cool endangered species condoms. They have very wry, very ironic and pretty brilliant sayings on the outside of the packaging. And the reason why we're doing that is because one of the ways to sustain the population of animals is to not overpopulate areas of their habitat in the world. So they're really great conservation messages. Yeah. There's going to be some live music, similar to what you talked about that you guys did Saturday night. There's going to be encounters happening on the web. When you sign up for this, you'll get a link. And so our African lions and our camels are going to make an appearance at this wine in the virtual party. So people can host, small, even if it's just the people who live in their homes that are of age. There'll be some like online crafts that people can do that night or the next day if they've got teenagers that want something to do. And then there's a couple of add-ons. We have trivia, and with a local famous trivia person locally. I'm not going to say his name because just in case I'm only 90% sure, we're only 90% sure he's doing it with us, but I think he is. And then we also have 3 local chefs doing like a demonstration of hors d'oeuvres to go with certain wine pairings. So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll be a tutorial type thing, kind of like a Rachel Ray thing, but on a Wine in the Wilderness night. So those are going to happen all on June 6th. Actually, the reservations are going to go live tomorrow. There's going to be one box that has this golden imprinted seal. So as people order their boxes, one will randomly have this seal, this gold label in it, and whoever wins that is actually going to win a bottle of wine called Safe, Saving Animals from Extinction. That's put out by EJA, and an encounter with our Nigerian dwarfs, which people just love the goats, the Nigerian dwarf goats, and people love those goats. So when we open again, they'll get a coupon for a free encounter with them. We're doing encounters right now too, where people can actually zoom in right now to this meeting, or animals can. We have, I think, 10 different of our animals that can come into your meetings.
Are people using that? Are they?
Yes. It just started Saturday, and I've learned that we're completely booked. We thought we could do it 3 times a week, and we're already getting completely booked up for weeks. So we're actually going to add time slots and days to do it. It had a little bit of kinks because we don't always have the best Wi-Fi at the zoo, but we've worked it out with people's phones. So the red pandas went to a little girl's 7th birthday party Saturday, and we got a great Facebook review about it, that it went over really, really well.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome. So how can people find information if they want to look into that?
So everything is, really on our website, uticazoo.org, to just get all of these different kinds of things. We also have some daily programs for kids, and really our social media is really, really vibrant. We're always, our marketing manager is Mark Simon, and he's always putting out really great video and photos. Our keepers have been amazing because Mark can't go to the zoo either. We're really being protective. So the keepers have been doing day in the life of the keepers. Sometimes they do takeovers of our social media. So they'll start in the morning, and you want behind the scenes and really knowing what's going on. Check out Instagram and Facebook for some of those, because they really start in the morning, and they go in, like they bring their live phone into the back areas of the keepers, or of the animals holding area, and as they're taking care of the animals, they tell you what they're doing. We've actually had some of our veterinarian procedures that we've taped and put those on our social media, so we've had some really, really great interactions. One of the things we're doing, and other zoos are too, is we're taking some of our animals out to visit some of our other animals. They're really all getting a lot of social interaction with our keepers.
Sure. Do you think that they miss people up there, or do you think they prefer not to have people?
So I've been asking that question of the keepers, because I never professed to know everything about the science of taking care of animals. That's not my expertise, but I have learned a lot from the keepers over the years. I know science words that I didn't know when I first started working at the zoo, but I have asked our veterinarian and some of the other staff, and at first people were, I think, hesitant to put that kind of characteristic on our animals, that they would actually, miss the people. But now we've actually had some conversations over the past few weeks, and we're acknowledging that they do seem to know that something's different. You know, in the winter, we have less visitors. We are open every day but Thanksgiving and Christmas, but we have less visitors. But I think they know that they're not getting that kind of interaction, especially animals like the goats, you know, that often get fed by people. Yeah. Sea lions, you know, we do the demonstrations every day, and there's people in the bleachers. So our keepers are really, they're doing double, triple duty. They're just amazing. They're really taking such great care of the animals.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, you were mentioning Mark. He's actually following along. So hi, Mark. Thank you.
Hi, Mark.
So we had a question come in and he went and answered it. So that was really good.
What was the question?
The question was just, are the hours different in the winter, and are winters snowshoe only?
Yeah.
So yeah, so he commented back.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're not, for everyone else listening, they're not snowshoe only. You can do anything you want throughout the zoo in the winter. You can walk around and sit and look at all the animals.
Yeah. I have to confess, it's one of our favorite things to do as it starts to get nice out, is just to go up there. And we've been there so many times. So we know the zoo, we know where everything is, but it's a nice walk. And if you like a bit of a workout, there's a lot of like different elevations and things. So our family has always enjoyed that, because even though it's a smaller zoo, there's a lot of hidden trails and things into the wilderness that you really feel like you're out there.
Yeah, we've tucked some things in, like the new nature play area that we did with the American Heart Association. That's intended to like be very natural and encourage kids, and almost sometimes teach kids how to play with things that are just at their fingertips that you would find outside. Not every child knows how to do that. We've actually found not every parent like gets it. Sometimes they'll be there, and if we happen to be up there, we kind of explain what the area is, and it's like a light bulb went off. There's even a little area that kids can lay on the ground and look up in the sky to make like animals out of clouds, and you know, but kids don't always know to do that. So we're really encouraging that nature play.
Yeah, that's nice. That's the backside there behind the lions up there. Yeah, the little games and things. It was really clever.
Right. Speaking of nature, I don't know if you've heard about this, but we actually just released the news in April that we were gifted about 1,300 acres of property right outside of Dolgeville. It's actually just in Fulton County. It skips over Herkimer County. It's called Beaver Sprite. And the history is that the woman, there's a woman, her name was Dorothy, and she actually can be given credit for making sure that the North American beaver did not go extinct. And so we actually own her property right now called Beaver Sprite. And the home that she lived in actually had this area called the Y that the beavers could actually swim right into her home. And so they lived in there with her, and the furniture was chewed up and the woodwork, and it's all still that way. And kids used to go there for field trips, etc. So we have a full-time person now who is going to really give new life to Beaver Sprite, telling Dorothy's story. We're going to be able to do all kinds of nature programs and hiking, and it's just going to be a real asset for our whole community. It's only about 40 minutes from the zoo, and we're really excited to have been gifted that by the estate of Dorothy Richards.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you have plans to do anything with the land that comes with that?
So it's conservation, like forever wild type land. You know, a lot of different ideas, but, you know, things to keep it natural.
Sure.
So stay tuned. There'll be a lot more about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, in order, like, sometimes, like, I guess I'm going to ask a question that maybe is silly, but when you get gifted something like that could be a big expense. Are you prepared for such a gift like that to maintain and?
Yeah, it was a big decision to take the land. It does come with a small trust from Dorothy's family, her nephew, who's actually a World War II general, veteran. So there's a small, I say small trust. I mean, it's I don't know how much it's worth right now with what's happening, you know, in the world, but there's a little bit of an investment back into that property each quarter. But we have a business plan that will, you know, be able to provide some revenue generation to keep it going over the long haul. It is very simple down there. There's not a lot of complexities to have to take care of. There are some buildings, and they were there's some repairs that were needed, but it was a lot of thought generated to accept the contribution. But we think that we can make it work. We think there's going to be an interest.
Yeah, nice. So let's talk more about the lions. The lions are so cool. So it's the baby, but he's big now.
No, they're all siblings.
They're all siblings now.
Siblings, yeah. Yeah, so Donovan was born in 2011. In fact, I had worked at the zoo a few weeks and didn't even know there was a lion cub there. I mean, I literally, it was such an eye-opening place to start working in June of 2011. I'm so blessed. How cool, right?
Yeah.
But I actually we took Donovan, funny story, we took Donovan to WKTV. Here he was, like 8 weeks old, a baby lion, took him to WKTV in a crate in the back of my minivan that my kids, kind of grew up in, my Twin Star. And so we took them, and KTV knew we were coming, and they called everybody, and like all the anchors that weren't on that night. I mean, everybody was there because it was a lion showing up on Smith Hill. So that was great. The keeper was with me, and Alex, her name was Alex, and we did the interview, like news talk. And then we're coming back to the zoo, and it was a Wednesday night. And on Wednesday nights, we have a little trouble sometimes getting up and down the hill.
Yeah. Okay.
What's going on? I said, I have a lion in the van. I have to go back up. We've got to put the lion back to the zoo. You show me that you have a lion in the van, and my name is whatever. So I open up my sliding door, and there in the crate is Donovan, just kind of looking out at the police officer. It was so cute. He still had his little markings on him. So Donovan went for a ride in the van, and we were able to take him back and put him in his den. Yeah. But they are large now, and they're so fun. I mean, literally, I just have to, again, direct people's attention to our Facebook and Instagram, because the keepers are getting the best coverage of them literally playing. Like, for anyone who loves cats, and you know how much cats kind of sneak around each other and play and roll around, and that's what the lions do. They just do it, 20 times larger than what house cats do, but they're pretty amazing.
Yeah. So I didn't realize there were siblings. For some reason, I thought there was a mom and a dad, and Donovan was the cub.
You probably, that's how it started. When I first got there was a mom and dad, Bakari and Mommy, and then Donovan was born. But we knew that we wouldn't have been able to, and then the other two were born the year after, and we knew that we wouldn't be able to have 5 adult lions in that exhibit, number one. And number two, once you get siblings in with their parents, then you have to worry about things like that they're, doing behaviors that siblings and parents and offspring shouldn't be doing, that they necessarily just wouldn't know that they shouldn't be doing while they're under human care. So the parents left, and we have the siblings. We actually spayed Koki, the female, because physiologically she wasn't going to change at all. Her body wouldn't change by being spayed. But neutering the boys, this is a fun fact, neutering the males would have actually made them not develop the masculine adult lion traits of like the large mane, the darker mane, wider shoulders, narrow hips, and the loud roar, the deep roar. So we didn't neuter the males, we spayed Koki. Sometimes they misbehave and do things that siblings shouldn't do. People always see it at Brewfest and Wine in the Wilderness. It ends up on people's Facebook every year. And but they, it's more a sign of dominance and playfulness, and they really do get along really pretty well. Koki can be a little bit of an instigator. Very often you'll kind of see her going in between the two brothers. She causes trouble between them. And she's so smart. She backs right out, and then the two brothers go at it a little bit and get dominance and fight a little bit. But it's, it's just their characteristics, and they all seem to really jive.
Yeah, that's nice. Do they ever hurt each other?
We haven't had them hurt each other, but the keepers are really astute, and they watch behaviorally every single day. They keep logs, etc. So for a little while, one of the things that we do for all of our animals, it's called enrichment. So sometimes when you're visiting, you might have seen like a shredded up box in an exhibit, and you might be like, why is there a box? Or why is there something that doesn't look like it belongs in one of the exhibits? But if an animal does behaviors out in the wild, like forages, digs, has to claw things to, eat, whatever their behaviors are in the wild, we try to provide them those opportunities to still do those experiences. And so there was a period of time when we put enrichment in the lions exhibit outside, we were starting to see that they would fight over it. So we started to give them enrichment individually inside in their own dens. And then they seemed to work through it. So now we actually can put enrichment back out in the exhibit again. So, you know, it's just a matter of watching and being careful and trying to predict and behaviors so that things don't happen.
Yeah. So if they were getting rowdy and potentially dangerous, what power does the keeper have?
Well, we haven't had to do that, but what my understanding is, we have some different mechanisms. They're very food driven. So a lot of times they can be drawn back into their dens by the knowledge that there's going to be food, and that might be noises that the keeper makes with the dishes, etc. That helps the lions know, oh, there might be carnivore meat inside. I'm going to go in. And inside they can be separated. If something ever got really, really dangerous, we have fire hoses that, you know, to be able to spray some water would, you know, cats don't really like water. We do have a little pool in the exhibit, so they like that, but no one would really want like water blasting towards them like a hose. So that could scare them enough to like just separate them. If there was ever anything really, really dangerous, you know, like somebody was in danger, we do have staff trained on zoo grounds with tranquilizer dart guns. You know, that would be if there was something really dangerous going on, but we haven't had to do that, thankfully. We do test ourselves and we drill, so we're prepared, but we've not had to have those emergencies, you know, responded to.
Sure. That's interesting. So like almost like a fire drill, but you have like a, you know, maybe a loose animal drill.
We do drills, at least 4 specific drills every year, and then we do some little pop-up ones. And you told me when we scheduled this that you wanted some behind-the-scenes kind of knowledge, and that is interesting for people to know is, you know, the staff at the zoo takes the work very, very seriously. I mean, we enjoy it. We get to go to the zoo we used to get to go to the zoo every day, and we can't wait until we can again, truly. But the work of the zoo is very scientific. There's research, there's, you know, veterinarian procedures. The diets are very, very monitored. Our salads that we make for some of the animals, that's actually one of the behind the scenes that's really cool is what do the different animals get? We actually have recipe cards, you know, like menu cards. And sometimes the salads look so amazing, like what you would get at a beautiful restaurant. The produce that we use, we don't use the produce that you and I wouldn't eat. Like when we go to do the lettuce, we take off the outside leaves just like you and I would for our own salads. And everything's just very colorful with pomegranates and beautiful greens. And a lot of the animals love craisins as a treat. So sometimes people say, you know, what's on your wish list? And we always have bags of craisins and lots of other things. You can check out our wish list on our website as well. But what I normally would think of would be like feta cheese on our salad. Really, it's like mealworms. But if you don't look close enough, you don't know that.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying, it's not food that's getting tossed out. It's fresh foods, new foods.
Right. We do toss, you know, we toss the outside leaves just like you or I would, but the good news is, and we're always looking for more. We've had pig farmers who farm pigs before. We can actually put those different kinds of things aside that we're not going to be able to use, banana boxes and all, and then when they come up and get it, then they can actually recycle it back out to use for their own livestock, and that's really our preference. When we can't do that, then we do have to discard it. We do have compost piles at the zoo, though, so that's really helpful, too.
Nice. So how do you get your food, though? You buy it from a distributor, like specifically, or like Cisco pulls the truck in once a week and like unloads like a restaurant, or?
Well, we actually get huge tractor trailer deliveries of different kinds of fish. Many of our animals, including mostly our California sea lions, eat. Our fish budget is $17,000 a year just for fish.
Wow.
Also purchase rodents that are laboratory made just for the purposes of feeding other animals. They're not the kind of rodents that would have like seen the light of day and lived somewhere and then people go catch them. They're like laboratory made, but we have rodents. And then we get a lot of different kinds of like canned foods, like for our primates, et cetera, that are all very nutritious. So we do have tractor trailers come up and bring food, but we also get, we're part of a gleaning program with Price Chopper. So I think 3 times a week we go there, sometimes daily if they have it, and get some produce. But again, it's what they have left, but it's not what they would throw away. It's just what they have that they can spare. So a lot of times it's, you know, just beautiful produce. But then we also buy it. We buy it from Carlo Massey, and we buy it from from Price Chopper. When I first started working there, we had 19 full-time staff, and the budget that the board had approved at the time was about $765,000 a year, which when you think about it, we're open every day of the year and we take care of live, exotic, and domestic animals. $765,000 was really not enough money to really run the zoo properly. Our budget for this year is around $2.2 million. So we've practically tripled our operating budget since 2011. And that's just operating. That doesn't include when we need to make some major repairs or improvements. So it costs, after we get the funds that we receive from the county, which is $300,000 a year, that's part of a contract that was settled on back in the 90s. After that, we actually require about $5,000 a day to take care of the zoo of revenue. And being closed right now it's truly hurting us, and we're frightened. We're not quite sure. We do have an amazing donor. Her name's Joan Sinnott. Her brother is Tom, and her nephew is Barry from Bank of Utica. And she is a scientist in the animal care field. And she's actually put out a challenge in April, and she's done so again for May. She's going to match every donation, large or small, up to $20,000. So if people are interested in helping, we do have an emergency operations fund right on our website, and any donation, Joan will match.
Oh, it's awesome. So yeah. What's the website's address exactly?
uticazoo.org.
Okay. So uticazoo.org, guys, check it out and make a donation. I know that every organization out there right now could really use your help, but if you do $1 here, $1 there, it matters, really matters.
Yeah, especially when it's doubled. I mean, people love to know that their investment is multiplied.
Sure. Yeah. So any other, last minute things that you'd like to share in regards to the zoo?
Well, let's see. I told you about a lot of the things that we're offering online. One of the things is, I don't know if people know this, but we have some amazing volunteers. They're education volunteers called docents. And the first day we closed, they started to say, what can we do to help? Many of them are very talented and crafty. So they actually started an Etsy page, and they're actually selling some really cool handmade things to all the money will go right back to the zoo to take care of the animals. So that's a great thing to support. I did mention that we have some great programs for the kids every day. But what I didn't mention is we have a new online store that people can get apparel. They can do adoptions. They can gift people animal adoption, and that directly helps us take care of the animals. They can get their memberships there and their renewals. And then we also, because we have this Kids Academy of programs for children to learn, helping all those. I saw on your Facebook one day, you actually say, how can I teach these kids? It's a lot of work, and the respect that you have for teachers. So we've been providing programming. It's STEM-based, science, technology, engineering, and math, because we are certified with the New York State Department of Education. So 3 days a week, we offer all new content in our Kids Academy. And then on our online store, we actually have some Kids Academy apparel. We have hoodies for the moms and the dads that are teaching, and different things for the kids. So that's another way to support us. We're really trying to be creative and to keep ourselves out there. It's not even just about doing some revenue generation, but we also just want people to really remember that we do have a zoo. It's pretty unique to have a zoo like ours in a city our size. And you were talking about going up, in the switchbacks or up to the Eagle and hearing the lions. I mean, you've got, right in the center of the city is a zoo. And we're really also proud of the sign at the bottom of our zoo. It's just a beautiful park. And all of that is local. It's Joel Grimaldi at Metalogics right in the center of Utica. He's the artist. His staff really got behind it. We had a local donor, Richard and Martha Whitcomb, who had the vision and the resources. And then we used a lot of local companies like Total Solutions and Fiber Instrument to kind of put it all together. That's 100% a local company and local visionary. And it really rivals any large zoo throughout the country when you come to our entrance at the bottom of the Utica Zoo Hill.
Yeah, it's really pretty. I love it. And you really feel like you're in the countryside for a second as you go up that hill. And
yeah, the deer that are actually just natural to the area, they kind of greet you and eat our hostas and all of our landscaping, and we're glad to do it.
Yeah, sure. So you don't have an animal background.
I have actually, my degree is actually in psychology, which when I first took the job, I didn't realize that psychology was actually one of the disciplines that animal care staff does work in. But I also have a degree in business. And I think the combination of business and psychology is an awesome combination.
Yes.
And I've been in a not-for-profit setting as a director for, I hate to say it, but I think it's over 35 years now.
Yeah. You're doing a great job. As we wrap it up, I just was wondering if you could share. It's funny that you link up psychology and business, because that's really the focus of what I do with Unstoppable You. It's emotional intelligence behind what we're doing every day, whether it's business, whatever. So there's always psychology in everything, and I don't think we give that enough credit. So tell me, in which ways have you been inspired by the animals?
Interesting. The first word that comes to my mind is tenacious. We have crazy storms sometimes up at the zoo, flooding, really, really drought, hot types of days. But as you walk through the zoo, sometimes, especially the camels, I always say that the camels, their eyes are so deep and fluid. I say all the time that I feel like they hold the answers to the mysteries of the centuries. And if you just sit there and stare at them long enough, I just feel like it's just very calming, and you can, kind of just get some reflection of, I don't know, just wisdom. But I would say that animals, whether they're at the zoo or even, we have a camp in the Adirondacks, and that's where I am most of the summer. Animals just in general are tenacious. I mean, they survive things that we can't. And
yeah.
They're just there. And it's up to us to make sure that they continue to be there. And there's a passion about that for all of us that work at the zoo. And that's the one thing people don't know about zoos, is that that's our mission and our passion, is to take great care of these animals and make sure that they're there for our children's children and beyond. And we take too much for granted.
Yeah, very good. Very good, Andrea. I really appreciate you coming on tonight and talking about the Utica Zoo and really sharing some stuff that we generally don't think about. And
I can definitely talk about the Utica Zoo.
Yeah, for sure. And it goes so quick. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're hitting 10 o'clock. So, but yeah, I mean, we take it for granted that we have this here, and we forget how lucky we are. So we truly are, for the city of our size, to have this beautiful facility with all this acreage and trails and groomed, and it's just really nice. And you've done a great job. So congratulations on that, and all of your staff who are out there. Yeah. And even in the community before COVID, I know Mark is out there doing a lot of things, and you guys are a well-oiled machine, I should say.
And if anyone had any questions that we didn't get to tonight, just reach out to us. We love to, do frequently asked questions. So just reach out.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Okay. So anyhow, thank you everybody for tuning in for another episode of the Unstoppable You podcast. Next episode is going to be May 25th. I have a woman from South Africa. Her name is Nantu Magabi. She is the first African woman to complete the World Marathon Challenge. What that is 7 continents, 7 countries in 7 days. Yes, you heard that right. And she goes from place to place, and she runs a marathon, and she hops on a plane and goes to the next place. So she was the first African woman to complete this. She's incredible. She has received international attention from this. Again, somebody who I've had lined up from the moment I heard about her, and then we couldn't connect because of COVID. She was on lockdown, and in her village, she couldn't get internet that was strong enough to have the interview. So I'm really excited that she's going to be back with us, and that will be May 25th. Again, live at 9. It'll be like 5 in the morning for her, but an incredible interview. And why she's doing this is an amazing story. So I'm super excited about that one too. So thank you again for joining us, where we have some unstoppable people, unstoppable stories, Unstoppable You, right here on Disruption Network. Have a good night, everybody.